The end of the journey yet.
Let's allow our other guests to come in on this. Tom, I mentioned the fact that you've campaigned on school buses, but I just want to hear your reaction to Paul Carter now talking about these bus routes, because I took a call on that same radio show on Wednesday from one of your constituents. She's an elderly woman who lives in Borough Green. She doesn't drive a car, and she said, we checked for her, all 3 of the buses she uses were on that list of potential cuts, and she said, I'm going to be left isolated.
Well, Julia, you've raised a very important point here, and the point is that they may, and the important word is may. Now, the consultation will start in January, it'll probably run till March. We've got to make sure voices are heard, because the idea that people should be completely cut off is not acceptable. What we've got to do is we've got to find a way in which we can keep people connected. And as you know, Julia, I've been running this campaign since January this year, mostly on school buses, it's true, but other people have filled in the survey that I've been running and have been in touch. We've got to make sure that transport works, not just rural transport, which is what a lot of people connect with, but town transport as well. I mean, Borough Green is rather a large community, actually, and connecting it to Maidstone, to Westmoreling, and indeed to Tunbridge is an important thing to do. And so I'm absolutely convinced that what we've got to do is we've got to make sure that the subsidy that is there is used to the best of our abilities. And, you know, one of the things that Paul mentioned is really important. He spoke about Arriva and Stagecoach, and there have been issues there. Well, what we've got to look at is the other operators. You know, Go has been very, very good. New Venture has been fantastic at taking on 1 or 2 of the routes that Arriva just couldn't make work. And there are other ways to run buses here, and better ways and cheaper ways. OK,
none of this would be happening, of course, if your government wasn't drastically reducing the funding to Kent County Council and to Medway and to other local authorities.
Look, the reality, as you know, Julia, is we've got to cut our cloth to the way that the budget works.
But the most vulnerable people, those aren't supposed to be the people, surely, in a civilised society who pay the price.
Julia, everybody who gets money from the government these days is vulnerable in some way. Either they need healthcare, or they need education, or they need transport, or they need security from the police, or whatever it is. Now, everybody who is getting any form of subsidy, whether it's through schooling or through health or through protection, is in some way vulnerable. And we've got to make decisions that allow people to have the maximum amount of freedom and security that we can produce as a community and as a society. And Paul's got to make some tough decisions, and I respect that. And the councillors that were elected earlier this year have got to make those decisions. That's for them to make. That's what they were elected to do, to represent their local community on Kent County Council.
But they were asked on Thursday to make that decision without any sort of information.
Sorry, forgive me, Julia, they weren't asked.
They were asked whether to go ahead with this process of identifying £4 million of cuts.
Not quite. They were asked to go ahead with a consultation. That's not quite the same thing. They were asked to go ahead with a process of looking at.
With no information about who would be impacted.
The whole point of the consultation is that that's where you find out whether anybody's going to be impacted or not. So it's what they're being asked to do is to start the process of looking at and understanding what the situation is.
And most important, is there an alternative method of delivery through the